All right, good evening and welcome to Breaking Today. We have so much lined up for you. Okay, and our sign language interpreter tonight is Michael Maidia. My name, of course, is Frederick Maitiridi, and these are the highlights. USA issues a level 3 advisory to its citizens against traveling to Kenya, citing the high number of COVID-19 cases in the country. Bus operators ask the government to be allowed to operate 24 hours, saying they have been hardly hit since night curfew was imposed. And members of parliament oppose the move by IEBC to limit election campaign financing. All right, welcome to the broadcast. Now, election campaign financing limits gazetted by Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) have been opposed by members of parliament. Members of parliament have said the gazette notice is already late and the requirements thereof should have come into play 1 year before next year's general elections. Our senior political reporter Joel Chacha with more.
The Delegated Legislation Committee in the National Assembly stood its ground that the regulations gazetted by IEBC on campaign funds limit were out of time and they ought to have been approved by Parliament first. IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati defended the electoral body, saying it has engaged Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, thereby following all the due procedures.
And the only thing that the Commission did was to publish the limits, which are not necessarily part of the regulations. That is the submission we want to make.
The legislators, however, could not hear any of that and declared IEBC's 2022 poll spending limits null and void. Meanwhile, in the floor of the National Assembly, a heated debate ensued on how political parties should nominate representatives to various houses and whether it should be before or after elections.
This list is supposed to be nominated, is supposed to be provided 45 days to the election, number one, to provide for the seats available for young people, for the seats available for people with disability, for seats available for marginalized groups, for seats available for workers. It is important that we should amend this. It is not an issue of slave queen or boyfriends. No. We are saying, let's nominate after elections. You will have measured somebody's performance. I've talked about the issues of party discipline. Some people, once they know they're on the list, elections come, somebody has relocated, has gone somewhere. This is about the discipline in the party. And that's why it adds value for someone to be nominated after the election.
According to the gender rule, political parties are required to enact it during the submission of the nomination list. Joel Chacha, Switch TV, Nairobi. Now, the 2022 general elections must be conducted on the date set by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC). This is according to the Aspirants Alliance of Kenya, who are challenging a motion by a section of members of parliament to postpone the elections following the monetary deficit by the commission to conduct the coming elections. Robert Oma with the report.
Days after the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) announced its 2022 general elections budget that settled on a whopping 40.9 billion shillings, a heated debate has continued to emerge from a section of leaders on how the commission would conduct the elections even after going beyond the 26 billion mark allocated in the national budget. Following the deficit, a section of members of parliament have been pushing hard for the elections postponement until the IEBC fills the financial gap.
Tutaki tu bora kura, tunataka kura iliyo bora. Kwa hivyo kama wataona ni ngumu na serikali kiona ni ngumu, kwa sababu hakuna mtu atatoka huko tu afande serikali kufanyisha kura, basi wanaweza sitiza kura wakitafuta pesa.
Afadhali uchaguzi yaahirishwe, hata rais akona legacy projects zake, big four project agendas kama hii mambo ya expressway, mambo ya LAPSSET na kadhalika, na hii mambo afya. Kwa hivyo ikipostpondiwa election kwa muda mfupi ili rais pia atimize ahadi zake kwa Wakenya, na pia saa hii pesa inapatikana ielekezwe kupambana na mambo ya corona na kupambana na mambo ya njaa.
On the contrary, the Aspirants Alliance of Kenya have termed the motion to postpone the elections as ill and that it will only work in favor of those already in power.
Wananchi wamepatiwa nafasi ya kuchagua watu wengine kama kuna marekebisho, na they are very eager kuchagua kiongozi mpya. So mambo ya kuahirisha kidogo tunaona ni kama haitachukuliwa vizuri na wapigaji kura.
So hakuna haja ya kuharibu nchi hii, hakuna haja ya kurudisha Kenya hii nyuma kwa sababu ati election hakuna pesa, wamekuwa kwa ofisi miaka hiyo yote. So we are appealing to them to use exhaust the money that they have.
Kwamba hata hii shilingi milioni 30 tunayopewa wale ambao tunagombea kiti cha ubunge ziko juu zaidi. Ni kwamba Mkenya wa kawaida yule ambaye angependa kuwakilisha mwananchi wa kawaida atazitoa wapi?
However, an alarm has been raised on how the campaigns will be conducted at a time when the country is still battling the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sisi wote tuweze kutake care, watu wafanye social distance, na tutafanya kampeni ambazo ziko katika zile regulation.
Hiyo ndio changamoto pia tumepata kama wanasiasa, sababu tunaona ya kwamba kweli janga la corona imekuwa tishio si Kenya tu bali nchi nzima.
With exactly 12 months before the 2022 general election and the country is warming up for the same, the IBC budget allocation seems to be a pending Cold War. Robert Ouma, Switch TV in Nairobi.
Still on matters IBC. Now, the Independent Election Boundaries Commission IBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati has today appeared before the Senate committee to give a breakdown of the 2022 general elections budget. However, the huge budget has been opposed by United Green Movement and Kenya Tuitakaya caucus, who have termed the budget as unreasonable and far-stretched. They claim that this budget will give room for looting, as David Kagina is now reporting.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission announced that it requires 40.9 billion to conduct the August 9th, 2022 polls, with only 26 billion allocated from the National Treasury, leaving a deficit of up to 14 billion. This has not sat well with a number of citizens, with the caucus from the United Green Movement and Kenya Tuitakayo questioning the practicality of the budget.
We have said that the more you make the cost of elections expensive, the more you're sending the country to a risky path, because you are simply propagating corruption.
Even after the appearance of the IEBC chair before the Senate committee to explain a breakdown of the budget, some of the activities revolving around election operations have been questioned as not being part of the Commission's mandate.
And in fact, part of the audits of the elections that we did, was it the 2013 elections that I had the chance to review, IEBC ended up spending money on non-serious issues like police reflectors, police gumboots or torches. That is not the core business of IEBC. I have seen part of the cost that they've put in this particular budget is to do with things like COVID protection issues or masks. That is a public health issue. So, I mean, let us not use independent commissions as spaces for pilfering public funds. We need inclusive institutions that are not extractive. IEBC is one of those Kenyans' extractive independent commissions. And I really think that we must make sure the cost of elections is cheaper, it should be reviewed, and I really think that Kenyans do not need to spend 40-something billion shillings in conducting an election.
With less than an year to the general election, the question of how prepared the IEBC is to conduct the polls still lingers, with the debate on whether to postpone the elections already rolling.
The IEBC commissioners, and you know the Kriegler Commission said you must put in place commissioners at least 1 year to the election for purposes of team building and also harmony. The other commissioners are yet to be vetted by Parliament. It's 360-something days to the election, less than a year to the election. We are simply walking ourselves into anarchy.
David Kagina, Switch TV.
All right, now, bus companies are asking the government to reopen the economy to allow them operate 24 hours a day. This comes a day after ODM party issued a statement in Parliament asking the government to fully open the economy to cushion suffering businesses. Sazamunga reports.
Allow full capacity from Monday, 9th August. That's from Monday next week. And that any SACCO which will be found violating the protocols will have its license revoked.
The aim of the government in lifting the measure was to cushion the industry from massive losses incurred as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Because a consideration has been given and we're going to ensure that we are signing an MOU that you adhere to what we are going to put in the...
However, despite the pleasant move by the government, most drivers are still crying out to the government to enable them resume to their normal 24-hour operation.
Wameamua kufungua na watu wanabeba magari zitembee pia usiku, itakuwa pia ni sawa. Manake sasa tunaona kuna SGR. Inabeba usiku SGR. Kweli ile SGR haibebi raia kama venye sisi tunabeba tu. Ile SGR pia inabeba tu watu kama sisi. Sasa sisi tunaimarisha serikali pia nayo iangalie upande wetu.
Serikali imekubali tubebe capacity ya abiria. Tunaomba serikali sasa ituashirie tubebe mpaka masaa ya usiku. Ifugue nchi irudi normal.
Kenyans, on the other hand, have supported the 24-hour operation move, asking the government to rethink their decisions, especially now that most of their livelihoods were affected.
Juu shule si nzuri, tufungulie tuendelee na maisha.
Kafio itakuwa mzuri sababu hata sioni Kenya inasaidia kafio. Bora tu tuoge mikono, tujifunike na tusanitize.
Night travel for the long-distance bus companies was a major contributor in profits made by most bus companies, but despite the move to carry full capacity, bus companies are still lamenting over incurred losses.
The transport industry has for a very long time been a weakling in curbing the spread of COVID-19, but now most drivers are crying to the government to return their 24-hour operation as no profits have yet been made. Sazamunga, Switch TV.
Now, United States of America has today issued a level 3 advisory to its citizens against traveling to Kenya, citing the high number of COVID-19 cases in the country. This comes at a time when a section of members of parliament are urging the government to open up the economy as Kenyans have been affected by the harsh economic times. Sheila Ngetich reports.
A call by ODM members on the reopening of the country's economy following the COVID-19 pandemic in Kenya has received a backlash from health experts as the number of positive cases recorded daily in the country continue to hike.
And the pressure is mounting because when you move around the world, especially the developed country, the US, the UK, the services, or rather the business, has resumed as normal. But what we don't actually understand is that this country have actually vaccinated most of its population, especially the targeted population. And as you look in our country, we are actually still doing below 2% for those who have taken the first vaccination.
Today, Kenya has recorded 1,974 cases, with a positivity rate standing at 14.7%. A quick look at the past 4 days indicates a steep rise, with 1,183 positive cases yesterday. On Monday, 745 cases were recorded. Saturday and Sunday recording 1,205 and 800 cases respectively. Could Kenya be heading into the peak of the fourth wave of the virus?
I need to say that the test issues is also a problem. It cannot be used as currently it is to tell whether we are at the peak or not. But I'm saying we are in the midst of the fourth wave. Remember, the government predicted this. But however, in the ensue of the fourth wave, the government declined to declare it as a fourth wave.
Meanwhile, the United States of America has issued a level 3 travel advisory against Kenya to its citizens, citing the high level of COVID-19 cases in the country. Internationally, there are 4 levels in travel advisory, with level 1 advising on exercising normal precaution, level 2 on the other hand urging an increased caution, with level 3 reminding citizens to reconsider their travel, with level 4 cautioning citizens to not travel to countries advised against. It poses a major blow to the tourism sector, considering that the US is the leading international tourism market source for Kenya. The debate on the reopening of the economy comes at a time where Kenyans are feeling the pinch of the harsh economic times brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. However, health experts are urging the government to at least vaccinate 60% of the population before considering it. Sheila Ngetich, Switch TV, Nairobi.
And with that sad story by Sheila Ngetich, we now take a short commercial break. We'll be back with more in a short while. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back. We are live on Switch TV YouTube channel, Switch TV News. All right, now all matatu operators in Machakos County are now receiving the AstraZeneca jab following the Ministry of Transportation's move to allow 100% resumption of carrying passengers to full capacity. The exercise, which targets PSV drivers, matatu touts and border riders, is being carried out at various bus stations in the county, with matatu owners urging passengers to board the vehicles with confidence that they will ensure fumigation is done on a daily basis.
Tutakutana na wahudumu wa bodaboda ukiongozwa na maafisa wao wakuu wa Bodaboda Association of Kenya, ndio pia tuweze kuwahimiza uzuri wa kupata hii chanjo na tuweze kuwapatia wengi wao chanjo, ndio wakuwa wanaweza jiprotect na pia kuprotect abiria wao.
Kufikia sasa idadi ya ugonjwa imeanza kwenda juu sana. Hii ndio tunaita fourth wave, na kweli hata tukiangalia numbers za ward karibu zinajaa. Tukiangalia wale watu wa kwa ICU, karibu ICU inajaa, na ndio maana tumesema lazima tufikie kila mtu, awe nyumbani, awe kwa stage, aweze kupata hii shindano. Kufikia sasa Machakos County tumepata 24,000 doses na tumepeana kwa hao watu na hakuna madhara yote tumesikia imepea watu.
Fumigation, tunauliza conductors wakimaliza kila trip, sababu wako na ile sanitizer, wa make sure wamesanitize gari, wamefumigate mostly kwa zile mahali abiria wanajishikilia sana huko kwa viti.
Now back to matters politics, where ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi has rampaged speculations that One Kenya Alliance members meeting with President Uhuru Kenyatta was about succession politics. Speaking in Kakamega County at the burial ceremony of Major General retired Ambassador George Nadida Agoy, the ANC leader delivered the message of condolence from President Uhuru Kenyatta, who described the late as a true patriot who served the country with diligence, integrity and commitment. Musalia has asked Kenyans to support his presidential bid and elect him as the next president of the Republic of Kenya after President Kenyatta's tenure.
Na mimi nataka niseme mbele ya Wakenya, ili muhula wa rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya ukiisha, na mimi nataka sasa tuanze muhula wa ANC wa Musalia.
Right, now we go to Siaya, where Siaya County Security Team today accused the residents of Bar Agulu sublocation in Karemo Division of frustrating efforts to nab perpetrators of a recent arson attack on several homes in the area by refusing to volunteer information to the police, led by County Commissioner Mohamed Bare and the County Police Commander Michael Mushiri. The security team lamented the efforts to bring to book those who touched 7 homes at Kanyibong and Agoro Lieye villages was almost hitting a snag as virtually everybody in the village feigns ignorance.
Sitakuwa county commissioner Siaya uwe watu hakuna onge. Kama huna njia ingine hama. Niko na ujuzi, niko na uwezo hawa na tuko na njia ya kumaliza. Tutakumaliza kwa usaidizi ya Mola wetu, kwa sababu unadhulumu watu. Tutakushika, tutakustaki, huwezi kushinda kwenda mbele na nyuma. Kwenda mbele, tutakwenda nyuma.
A typical police officer. All right, now we go to international stories, where Zambians will decide tomorrow whether to re-elect President Edgar Lungu after the country's worst economic performance in decades and a crackdown on dissent that has raised fears of unrest in the southern African country. His main rival in what polls suggest is a close election race is 59-year-old Hakainde Hichilema, marking his 6th run for presidency, as James Apollo is now reporting.
Hichilema has already narrowly lost to Lungu twice. In a 2015 by-election after the death of ex-president Michael Sata, and then in general polls the following year. Lungu deployed the army following clashes between the rival supporters in the run-up to presidential and parliamentary polls, a move critics denounce as a tactic to intimidate opposition voters. Analysts say that the result of the closely fought election will set the tone for investment in the copper-rich Southern African nation, where more than half of its 17 million people live in poverty. Surveys suggest economic hardships as eroded support for Lungu, accused of borrowing unsustainably to finance flashy infrastructure projects as living costs soared. In the capital, Lusaka, Lungu's Green Patriotic Front party manifestos have dominated billboards lining newly built freeways and overpass bridges. They trumpet achievements in construction, agriculture and youth employment. Opposition voters, whose party color is red, are keeping a low profile in Lusaka, traditionally a PF stronghold. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, only door-to-door campaigning has been allowed this year, rather than mass gatherings, although politicians have rallied under the guise of mass distribution events. Government critics say the pandemic has been used to thwart the opposition. Hichilema's team say they have been barred from entering several parts of the country, including the strategic Central Copperbelt province, where their supporters were dispersed with tear gas. There are also concerns about the newly compiled electoral register, which some observers allege it skewed towards PF strongholds, and a controversial cybersecurity law that could be used to block the internet. While pre-election violence is not uncommon in Zambia, Every transition of power has been peaceful since the former British colony adopted multi-party democracy in the 1990s. Over 7 million people are registered to vote between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. with the results expected by Sunday. The results in Lusaka, a city of more than 3.3 million inhabitants and the central Copperbelt province, will be the key to determining the winner. Apollo James, Switch TV.
It's time for business now. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has presided over the groundbreaking of the construction of a CBK police housing project that will consist of 210 modern units. The project, located within Nairobi's industrial area police station, is expected to be completed within a year and will comprise of a police canteen, pharmacy, convenience store, a recreation center, and a children's play area. Its design also incorporates green space with trees and landscaped with lawns. Speaking during the event, CBK Governor Dr. Patrick Njoroge has said that the project will be delivered without variation, revisions and delays.
Occupies plenty of spaces that we could improve to help the welfare of our people. Across this town, police service occupies some of the prime lands and places where we could change the way in which our police officers live. But I'm grateful that it's no longer a story now. It is happening.
Governor has taken us to another level as a national police service. We were just the other day in Ngong, where we launched another project which the governor is financing. This is a second project.
So where you can have 210 police officers, their families staying here in adequate sort of accommodation.
Now, CIC Insurance Group has recorded a major rebound of 337 million shillings profit before tax for the half year ending 30th June 2021. According to a report released by Chief Executive Officer Patrick Nyaga, the strong performance was driven by growth in all business except South Sudan, where the business was reprising to more profitable business. Despite COVID-19 pandemic adversely affected the life insurance business, with the group life claims increasing in period, the company has adopted strategies to mitigate this impact as they continue to support those who've been affected by the pandemic. In the general insurance business, gross written premium was up 16% from 5.9 billion shillings last year to 6.8 billion shillings, reflecting new business wins. The business recorded a profit before tax of 345 million compared to a loss of 119 million shillings same time last year. Alright, time for sports. Now, Tusker FC is expected to bolster its squad ahead of their return to the African Champions League. They are reportedly eyeing AFC Leopards talisman Elvis Rupia, who has